The chamber was silent when Ambassador Una Park stood to speak. Around her, representatives from 47 alien species sat in floating seats, their eyes fixed on the small human woman. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 10,000 years, and today they would decide humanity's fate. Una's hands trembled as she activated her display. Charts and graphs filled the air, showing Earth's progress over the past 2 centuries. Human colonies on Mars, mining stations on asteroids, research facilities on Luna, all of it built with hard work and hope. Honored Council, Una began, her voice steady despite her fear. Humanity requests permission to continue our quantum fold research. We believe this technology can benefit all species. We want to share enough. The word came from Premier Draxor, the leader of the Draxim Empire. His scaled face twisted in disgust. Your species advances too quickly. You take what is forbidden. You reach beyond your place. A crystalline being from the Voth Collective spoke next, its voice like breaking glass. In 200 years, humans have achieved what took us 2,000. This is unnatural, dangerous. Una felt her heart sink. She had prepared for resistance, but the hatred in their voices was clear. We only want to learn, to grow. Is that not the purpose of civilization? Your purpose, Draxor said, rising from his seat, ends today. I call for a vote on Species Removal Protocol 77. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species protested, but most remained silent. Una watched in horror as the voting began. One by one, lights appeared on the massive display. Red meant death. Green meant life. The red lights outnumbered the green 47-3. No, Una whispered. Please, you cannot do this. We have children, families, 14 billion souls who have done nothing wrong. Draxor moved faster than she expected. His clawed hand grabbed her throat and lifted her from the ground. You are the mistake we will correct. The last thing Una saw was the blade sliding between her ribs. She fell to the chamber floor, her blood pooling on the ancient stones. No one moved to help her. The message was clear. Humanity had no friends here. 3 hours later, the attacks began. Commander Tae-sung was reviewing supply reports on Mars when the alarm screamed. His command center exploded in activity as officers ran to their stations. Sir, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace, his sensor officer shouted. 50 ships. No, 100. They're everywhere. Tae-sung's blood turned cold. Sound general quarters. Get every ship into space now, but it was already too late. The Draxim fleet opened fire with weapons humanity had never seen. Sean cannons that burned hotter than stars. Missiles that tore through shields like paper. Mars Base 3 simply vanished, turned to vapor in an instant. They're targeting the colonies, someone screamed. Earth is under attack. Luna's under attack. All stations are reporting. The communication cut off as an energy beam struck the command center. Tae-sung was thrown across the room. When he opened his eyes, half his officers were dead. Fire consumed the walls. Through the shattered window, he saw his beautiful Mars burning. Get to the ships, he ordered the survivors. Anyone who can walk, run. They fled through burning corridors. Soldiers and civilians together, desperate to reach the hangar. Behind them, the base collapsed section by section. Tae-sung counted heads as they reached his frigate. 200 people. That was all he could save from a base of 20,000. His ship launched into a sky filled with death. Draxim warships destroyed the human fleet with casual efficiency. Tae-sung watched helplessly as ships he had served on for years were torn apart. Sir, where do we go? His pilot asked. Tae-sung looked at the scanner. Earth was a ring of fire now. Luna had gone dark. Every human world was dying. Get us to the Kuiper Belt, maximum speed. If we stay, we die. On Luna, Dr. Hana Kang worked frantically in her laboratory. The quantum fold generator hummed with power. Years of research contained in its crystalline core. Warning sirens wailed outside, but she ignored them. Almost done, she muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Data uploaded to encrypted drives, blueprints, test results. Everything they had learned. Her assistant burst through the door. Doctor, the evacuation ships are leaving. We have to go now. 30 more seconds, Hana said. The progress bar crept forward. Around her, the lights flickered as explosions rocked the research complex. The upload completed. Hana grabbed the drives and ran. They reached the shuttle bay just as the ceiling began to crack. Through the viewports, she could see Earth below, her beautiful home wrapped in flames. 15 people crowded into the small shuttle. Hana took the pilot seat, having no other choice. Her hands shook as she fired the engines. The shuttle lurched into space just as the research complex exploded behind them. "Where are we going?" someone asked. Hana had no answer. She simply pointed the shuttle away from the dying worlds and flew. The massacre continued for 3 days. The Draxum and their allies were thorough. They burned cities to ash, released biological weapons that targeted human DNA specifically, dropped antimatter bombs that cracked continents. When they were done, Earth's 14 billion people were reduced to 200 million scattered survivors. The Council declared humanity extinct. They broadcast the news across the galaxy. The humans destroyed themselves in nuclear war. The official statement read, "A tragic example of a violent species unable to control their own nature." It was a lie, but no one questioned it. The Council's word was law. But in the darkness between stars and hidden asteroid bases and damaged ships, some humans survived. Taesung and his 200 soldiers, Hana and her 15 scientists, scattered groups across the frontier, all told perhaps 8,000 souls. They listened to the broadcasts declaring their extinction. They saw footage of aliens already colonizing Earth's ruins, strip mining the graves of humanity for profit. And in the silence of their hiding places, they made a choice. They would not fade quietly into history. They would not let their species be forgotten. They would have vengeance, not just revenge against those who pulled the trigger, but a complete reshaping of the galaxy that had tried to erase them. The Council thought humanity was dangerous before. They had no idea what they had created by trying to kill them all. In the deep darkness of the Kuiper Belt, Taesung stared at a fragment of Earth he had grabbed during the escape. Melted metal from a children's playground, he made a promise to those who died. "We will remember, we will return, and when we do, nothing will ever be the same." 5 years after the genocide, the survivors were still hiding. Taesung's people had converted an old mining station into a base they called Sanctuary. It was cramped, cold, and barely functional, but it was home. Every day brought new challenges. Food was rationed. Water recyclers broke constantly. People got sick from stress and poor nutrition. But they survived because they had no other choice. Taesung stood in the command center staring at star charts. Somewhere out there, other humans had to be alive. He had been sending encrypted signals for months with no response. "Sir, we picked up something," his communication officer said suddenly. "It's faint, but it's definitely human code." Taesung's heart raced. "Source?" "Deep space near the Oort cloud. It's a repeating message. They're calling for any survivors to respond." Within hours, they made contact. It was Dr. Hana Kang's group. They had been hiding on an ice asteroid using minimal power to avoid detection. When they heard Taesung's voice over the secure channel, several of her people cried. Over the next months, more survivors emerged from hiding. A cargo hauler captain named Sora Lee had saved 40 civilians by pretending to be a mining ship. A military unit led by Colonel Jin Park had survived in deep space bunkers. Small groups on distant outposts who missed the initial attacks by sheer luck. They all made their way to Sanctuary. By the end of the year, 8,000 humans had gathered. It was all that remained of 14 billion. Taesung called a meeting in the largest chamber they had. People packed in shoulder to shoulder. Some wore military uniforms. Others had civilian clothes patched with whatever they could find. All of them carried the same haunted look. "We need to talk about what comes next," Taesung began. "We can keep hiding. Maybe find a distant world and start over, or we fight," Jin Park said, his voice hard. The colonel had lost his wife and children on Earth. "They murdered us. They lied about it. They're mining our worlds for profit while they tell the galaxy we killed ourselves." "Fight with what?" someone shouted. "We have 2 damaged warships and a cargo hauler." "They have thousands," Hana stood up. "We have something more valuable than ships. We have knowledge. My team managed to save all our quantum fold research, the technology the Council banned because they feared it. They should fear it," Taesung said quietly, "because we're going to use it against them." The room erupted in argument. Some wanted revenge. Others just wanted to survive. Families with children worried about safety. Soldiers wanted to strike back immediately. It was Sora Lee who silenced them. The cargo captain climbed onto a crate and held up a piece of melted glass. "This was from my daughter's school on Earth. I found it in the ruins when we went back to scavenge." She was 7 years old, her voice broke, but she continued. "Every person here has lost someone. Everyone here has a piece of home that's gone forever. We can't bring them back, but we can make sure their deaths meant something. We can make sure no species ever has to fear being erased again. How? Someone asked. How do we fight the entire council? Hana stepped forward again. We become what they feared we would become. We advance beyond them. We take their technology and improve it. We hit them where they're weak. We turn their own fears into reality. Jin Park nodded. Guerrilla warfare. We strike and vanish. Destroy their supply lines. Make them bleed resources. Turn species against each other. It's called asymmetric warfare and humans invented it. We'll need intelligence, Tae-sung added. We need to know what they're planning. We need spies inside their systems. A woman named Yoon Cho spoke up. She had been a diplomat before the war. I can do that. We have captured some alien equipment. If we can study their biology, maybe we can disguise ourselves. The plan came together slowly. They would split into cells. Hana's team would work on technology. Jin's soldiers would train for combat. Yoon would build a spy network. Tae-sung would coordinate everything, but first they needed a test. They needed to prove they could hurt the council. Jin took a team to Mars 3 months later. The Draxim had built a mining operation in the ruins of the human colonies. They were stripping the planet of rare minerals, laughing as they worked on human graves. Jin's team of 20 moved silently through the facility at night. They had studied Draxim security for weeks. Every guard rotation, every weak point. They were patient, careful, and absolutely ruthless. The explosion started at midnight. Power generators, ore processors, landing pads, all of them went up in flames. The Draxim scrambled to respond but found nothing. The humans had already vanished into the tunnel systems they had built decades ago, but Jin left something behind. A message painted on the mining facility wall in letters 10 meters high. We are not extinct. The Draxium reported the attack immediately. The council dismissed it as local raiders, but then more attacks happened. A Voth supply convoy vanished in deep space. A orbital station near Jupiter simply stopped responding. Small strikes but constant. During one raid, Jin's team captured a Voth prisoner. They brought it back to Sanctuary and Yoon questioned it for days. At first it refused to talk, but humans had learned patience in their suffering. Finally it broke. You want to know why the council killed you? It wasn't because you were violent. It was because you were advancing too fast. In another 100 years you would have surpassed us. The elder races couldn't accept becoming obsolete. The prisoner died shortly after from its injuries, but the truth was out. The genocide had been driven by pride and fear. The council had erased humanity not because they were dangerous, but because they threatened the established order. That night, Tae-sung called everyone together again. In the center of Sanctuary, they placed a fragment of Earth's surface, melted rock and metal still bearing scorch marks from the orbital bombardment. They tried to erase us because they feared what we could become, Tae-sung said, so let's become it. Let's become their worst nightmare, not because we want to destroy, but because we refuse to be forgotten. He drew a knife and cut his palm, letting blood drip onto the Earth fragment. I swear on the graves of 14 billion souls, we will not rest until the council falls. Until every species that voted for our extinction pays the price. Until the galaxy remembers what happens when you try to erase humanity. One by one, all 8,000 survivors came forward. They cut their hands and let their blood mix on the fragment. Young and old, soldiers and scientists, parents and children. All of them made the same oath they would have vengeance. But not just revenge. They would remake the entire galaxy in humanity's image. They would tear down the old order and build something new from its ashes. The council had made a terrible mistake. They thought killing billions would solve their problem. Instead, they created 8,000 humans with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. In the darkness of Sanctuary, surrounded by his people, Tae-sung smiled for the first time in 5 years. Let's get to work. 8 years had passed since the blood oath. The survivors were no longer desperate refugees hiding in the dark. They had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Wuhan stood in the shipyard, watching workers complete the first Ghost-class warship. Before the genocide, he had designed cargo haulers. Now he built weapons specifically created to kill aliens. It's beautiful, Hana said, joining him. The scientist had changed too. Her hair had gone gray from stress, but her eyes burned with fierce intelligence. "Tell me about it." Wu smiled. "The Council's ships are powerful but predictable. They rely on shields and armor. Our Ghost class uses quantum fold fields to slip between dimensions. When we want to be seen, we appear. When we don't, we simply aren't there." "And the weapons?" "Quantum fold missiles. They don't travel through space. They fold reality and appear inside the target. No shields can stop them because they never cross the shield barrier." Hana laughed, but there was no joy in it. "The Council banned quantum fold research because they feared what we might create. They were right to fear. The Ghost-class ships became the foundation of humanity's new fleet. Over 4 years, working in hidden shipyards across the frontier, they built 500 ships. Not large vessels, but fast, deadly, and impossible to detect. While Wu built ships, Yun Cho built something equally dangerous. An intelligence network that reached into the heart of Council space. She had made a breakthrough 2 years earlier. Using captured alien technology and human genetic engineering, her team learned to modify human biology. With the right treatments, a human could temporarily alter their appearance to match alien species. It was painful. The transformations lasted only a few weeks. But it worked. Yoon recruited volunteers from the survivors, people willing to risk everything to spy on the enemy. She trained them in alien languages, customs, and behavior. Then she sent them into Council space. Her spies infiltrated Draxim military bases, Voth research stations, trading posts, and diplomatic centers. They gathered information on fleet movements, defensive systems, and political divisions. Every weakness the Council had, humanity learned about it. "We have confirmation," Yoon reported at a strategy meeting. "The Draxim are planning to expand their mining operations to Saturn's moons. They'll have minimal military presence for the next 3 months." Tae Sung, now promoted to admiral, studied the star charts. "Jin, can your teams hit them?" Colonel Jin Park, now a general, nodded. "Give me 20 ships and I'll make Saturn's orbit their graveyard." The raid on Saturn was humanity's first major offensive. 20 Ghost-class ships appeared without warning, their quantum weapons tearing through the Draxim fleet. In 15 minutes, 30 alien warships were destroyed. Before reinforcements could arrive, the human ships vanished into quantum fold space. The Draxim were furious. They sent investigation teams, increased patrols, and demanded answers from the Council. But they found nothing. No trace of the attackers. No idea where they came from. The Council's official position was that it must have been a rival alien faction. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The attacks continued. A Voth convoy carrying weapons vanished in deep space. A Council research station studying human technology exploded mysteriously. Supply lines were cut. Communications were disrupted. Small strikes, but constant and devastating. 3 minor Council species suffered economic collapse from the constant raids. Their trade routes weren't safe anymore. Their resources were depleted. They begged the major powers for help, but the Draxim and Voth were too busy defending their own territories. Meanwhile, humanity was growing stronger. Yoon's spies discovered that the Council had been hoarding ancient technology from a precursor civilization. Technology they kept secret from younger species to maintain their dominance. "They sit on technology that could advance every species by centuries," Hana said, reading the intelligence reports. "And they keep it locked away out of pride." "Then let's take it," Tai Sung said simply. The raid on the Council archives was humanity's boldest move yet. The archives were on a heavily defended station in neutral space, protected by the combined fleets of all major Council species. Jin led the assault personally. 50 Ghost-class ships folded into reality around the station. While half engaged the defense fleet, the other half delivered special forces directly inside the station using quantum fold teleportation. The battle lasted 2 hours. Human soldiers fought through the archives, downloading every piece of ancient technology they could find. When the Council reinforcements arrived, the humans simply vanished, taking terabytes of data with them. Among the stolen technology was something incredible. The precursor civilization had developed reality manipulation devices far beyond anything the Council understood. Hana's team studied it obsessively. This changes everything, she told Tae-sung 6 months later. With this technology, we can do more than build weapons. We can terraform dead worlds in months, create resources from nothing. The applications are endless. Can we weaponize it? Tae-sung asked. Hana's expression was grim. Yes. We can create missiles that tear holes in space-time itself. Ships hit by them don't explode. They simply cease to exist. Good. Build them. While humanity advanced technologically, they also built alliances. Yoon's spies made contact with species oppressed by the Council. The galaxy had many races living under the boot of the major powers. Species denied technology, resources, and freedom. Humanity offered them a deal. Help us, and when the Council falls, you'll be free. It was a risk. Any of these species could betray them to curry favor with the Council. But humans had learned to read alien nature. They were careful, patient, and they chose their allies wisely. The Kellics, a species enslaved by the Draxim for mining work, provided intelligence on enemy base locations. The Thryn, traders denied access to major markets, helped smuggle weapons and supplies. Slowly, humanity built a shadow network across the galaxy. 10 years after the genocide, humanity struck the Voth directly. The Voth Collective had been one of the strongest supporters of human extinction. Their crystalline ships were fast and deadly. Their home system was defended by 300 warships. Tae-sung committed the entire Ghost Armada to the attack. 500 human ships folded into Voth space simultaneously. The battle that followed was brutal. Voth shields were strong, but quantum-fold weapons bypassed them entirely. When it was over, the Voth home fleet was destroyed. Before leaving, Tae-sung broadcast a message on all frequencies. It showed the original council vote, with the Voth representative voting for human extinction. Then it showed footage of Earth burning. You declared us extinct, Tae-sung's voice said. You were wrong, we are humanity. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And we are coming for all of you. The message spread across the galaxy in hours. The council tried to suppress it but failed. Species that had believed the lie about human self-destruction now saw the truth. The elder races had committed genocide and lied about it. Public opinion shifted. Some species were horrified. Others were terrified. The council's unity began to crack. In the hidden bases scattered across the frontier, humans celebrated their first major victory. They had proven they could strike the council at its heart and survive. More importantly, they had revealed the truth. Hana stood with Tae-sung watching the celebration. We've come far from that asteroid base. We've barely started, Tae-sung replied. The Voth fleet is gone, but their civilization stands. The Draxim are still powerful. The Council still rules most of the galaxy, but they know we're here now. They know we're not extinct. Tae-sung smiled coldly. Let them know. Let them live in fear like we did. Let them wonder when we'll come for them next. The ghosts of humanity are patient. We can wait. But eventually, every species that voted for our extinction will pay the price. The message went out simultaneously to all human forces scattered across the frontier. 3 words that had been 17 years in the making. Operation Eclipse launch. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, watching as 500 Ghost-class warships powered up their quantum-fold drives. Around him, officers worked with calm efficiency. These weren't the desperate refugees from Sanctuary anymore. They were soldiers of a reborn nation. All ships report ready, his tactical officer said. Targets locked. Tae-sung thought of Ambassador Yuna, murdered on the council floor. He thought of the 14 billion who died in the genocide. He thought of children who never grew up and futures that were stolen. For Earth, he said quietly. For humanity. Execute. The Ghost Armada vanished from normal space. When they reappeared, it was simultaneously in 40 different star systems across Council territory. Every major homeworld of the 7 Council species was hit at once. On the Draxim homeworld, 100 human ships emerged in orbit. Their quantum-fold weapons ignored the planetary shields and struck military installations directly. Draxim command centers exploded. Defense platforms ceased to exist. Their vaunted fleet, caught unprepared, was torn apart in minutes. General Jin Park led the ground assault personally. Quantum fold teleportation put human soldiers directly into strategic locations. They weren't there to occupy. They were there to send a message. Jin's team planted a device in the center of the Draxim capital. When activated, it projected a massive hologram visible from orbit. It showed Premier Draxor ordering the genocide. It showed the council vote. It showed Earth burning. Your leaders did this, the message said in the Draxim language. They destroyed an entire species out of fear and pride. Now face the consequences. The Voth Collective suffered similar strikes. Their crystalline cities shattered under quantum bombardment. Their research facilities were destroyed. Centuries of hoarded technology was stolen or demolished. Across council space, the pattern repeated. Humanity struck with overwhelming force, but they were surgical. They destroyed military targets, not civilians. They broke the ability to wage war, but left populations alive. Within 72 hours, the Council's military power was reduced by 60%. Their leadership was in chaos. Their unity was shattered. Status report, Taesung ordered as the fleet regrouped. We lost 47 ships, his tactical officer reported, but mission objectives achieved on all 40 targets. Enemy losses are catastrophic. And Earth? Commander Sora Lee's face appeared on the screen. She was leading the Earth Liberation Force personally. Sir, Earth is ours. The Draxim Occupation Force has surrendered. We're reclaiming the planet now. Taesung felt something break inside him. After 17 years of exile, humanity was home. Good work, Commander. Begin recovery operations immediately. But there was no time to celebrate. 4 council species surrendered within a week, agreeing to human terms. They would face trial for genocide. They would pay reparations. They would give up all claims to human territory. The Draxim, however, refused. Their new premier, Draxor's successor, called the attacks terrorism. He rallied what remained of their fleet and vowed to fight to the last ship. They want total war, Jin said at the strategy meeting. Let's give it to them. The campaign against the Draxim lasted 6 months. Humanity had no mercy left for the species that had led the genocide. Their colony worlds were liberated. Their trade routes were destroyed. Their allies abandoned them one by one. Hana's team deployed weapons using the ancient precursor technology, reality-tearing missiles that made enemy ships simply vanish from existence, quantum bombs that folded space in on itself, crushing entire battle stations. The Draxim fought desperately, but they were fighting the future with tools from the past. Every advantage they once had was now obsolete. Humanity had surpassed them in every way. The final battle happened at the Draxim homeworld. Their last fleet, 300 ships, made a stand in orbit. Taesung brought the entire Ghost Armada to face them. They can surrender now, he broadcast on open channels. Lay down your weapons and you'll live. Continue fighting and you'll be destroyed. The Draxim response was to open fire. The battle was brutal but one-sided. Human ships danced through enemy formations, their quantum weapons cutting through shields like they didn't exist. Draxim ships exploded or simply ceased to be as reality weapons hit them. In 30 minutes, it was over. The Draxim fleet was gone, but Taesung didn't destroy the planet. Instead, he did something the Draxim never expected. He broadcast the truth. His message showed every recording humanity had gathered. The council vote, the genocide planning meetings, communications between Draxim leaders discussing how to manipulate other species into supporting the extinction protocol. Your leaders lied to you, Taesung told the Draxim people. They told you humans were dangerous. They said we were a threat. The truth is we were advancing too quickly and they couldn't accept becoming second best. So they murdered 14 billion innocent people and blamed us for our own deaths. He paused, letting the images sink in. Now your fleet is destroyed. Your leaders have failed you. And you have a choice. Continue following those who brought you to this, or accept that what they did was wrong and help build something better. The broadcast caused chaos on the Draxim homeworld. Protests erupted in the streets. Junior military officers arrested their superiors. The government collapsed in days as people demanded answers and accountability. Without the Draxim Empire to lead them, the council's remaining members had no choice but to negotiate. Representatives from all species met on a neutral station to discuss terms. Hana represented humanity at the negotiations. She was no longer just a scientist. She was now Chancellor of the Reformed Human Confederacy, leading 8,000 survivors who had grown into a nation of millions through cloning and rapid population growth. "The Galactic Council is dissolved," she announced to the assembled aliens. "Its crimes are beyond forgiveness. Every species that participated in the genocide will stand trial. And if we refuse?" a Voth representative asked. "Then we continue the war until you no longer have the ability to refuse," Hana said coldly. "We've proven we can destroy your military forces. Don't make us prove we can destroy more." The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. In the end, every council species agreed to the terms. The old council was officially dissolved. A new government would be formed, one based on equality rather than the dominance of elder races. War crimes trials began immediately. The surviving council leaders who had voted for human extinction were arrested and transported to Earth for judgment. They would face human courts under human law. During this time, humanity was also reclaiming and rebuilding Earth. The ancient precursor technology made it possible. Hana's team used reality manipulation devices to repair the damaged planet at an impossible speed. Radiation was cleansed. Atmospherics were fixed. Dead oceans were restored. In 6 months, Earth went from a scarred wasteland to a living world again. Not exactly as it was before, but alive and beautiful. Humans began returning home. The children born in exile saw their ancestral world for the first time. They walked in forests that hadn't existed a year ago. They stood on beaches and felt wind that had been poisoned by alien weapons. Wuhan, who had spent 15 years building warships, stood on the coast of what had once been Korea. The land was different now, reshaped by terraforming. But it was Earth. It was home. "We did it," Sorley said, joining him. "We actually did it." "Not yet," Wu replied. "The war is over, but the real work begins now. We have to build a new galaxy. Make sure this never happens again." On the anniversary of the genocide, Tae-sung stood before a massive memorial on Earth, a quantum crystal encoded with the names of all 14 billion dead. Around it, representatives from 40 species gathered, including former enemies. "We didn't seek this war," Tae-sung said. "It was forced upon us, and we fought not just for revenge but to prove that what made humanity dangerous was also what made us valuable. Our refusal to accept injustice, our capacity to dream of something better." He looked at the assembled aliens. "The Council tried to erase us. Instead, they created something new. A galaxy where strength doesn't equal righteousness, where elder races don't automatically rule, where every species has the right to exist and grow. The war is over. Now we build the peace." 20 years after Operation Eclipse, the galaxy was almost unrecognizable. Chancellor Hana Kang stood before the inaugural meeting of the Galactic Commonwealth, watching representatives from 63 species take their seats. The chamber was built on Earth, in the place where old United Nations headquarters once stood. But this was different from both the old human government and the council that had tried to erase them. "This assembly is now in session," Hana announced. "And before we begin, let me be clear about what we are building here. This is not the Galactic Council reborn under a new name. The Council ruled through dominance. We will govern through cooperation." A Draxam representative, young and nervous, raised his hand. "Chancellor, how can you trust us? My people led the genocide." Hana's expression softened slightly. "Because you are not your leaders. Every species here has the chance to prove they learned from the past, including humanity." It had been a hard-fought peace. The war crimes trials lasted 5 years. Hundreds of former council leaders faced judgment. Some were executed, others imprisoned for life. But Hana had insisted on one thing: they would punish the guilty, not entire species. "If we destroy them all, we become what they feared," she had told Tae-sung during the trials. "We have to be better." The Commonwealth's charter was simple. All species were equal. No race could claim supremacy over others. Technology would be shared freely. Expansion would be cooperative. Any species attempting genocide or species cleansing would face unified opposition from all others. "It's idealistic," Admiral Tae-sung had said when Hana first proposed it. "Maybe impossible." "So was surviving the genocide," Hana replied. "So was destroying the council. We've done impossible things before." The technology sharing initiative became the cornerstone of the new galaxy. Everything the Council had hoarded for millennia was released. Ancient precursor technology, quantum fold drives, reality manipulation, genetic enhancement, all of it freely available to any species that wanted to learn. Wu Han, now director of the Galactic Technology Institute, oversaw the distribution. He worked with alien engineers, teaching them what humanity had learned. "This feels wrong," a Voth scientist said to him during one training session. "You owe us nothing. My people voted for your extinction. Why help us?" Wu looked at the crystalline being. "Because hoarding knowledge is what created the old council. They kept younger species weak so they could stay powerful. That's what led to the genocide. We break that cycle by doing the opposite." The results were remarkable. Species that had been technologically stagnant for centuries began advancing rapidly. The Kellics, former slaves to the Draxim, developed their own quantum fold ships within 5 years. The Thryn, once marginalized traders, became leaders in biotechnology. "We're creating our own competition," Sora Lee said during a council meeting. She was now governor of Mars, overseeing its reconstruction. "In another generation, some of these species might surpass us." "Good," Hana replied. "That's the point. We're not building an empire. We're building a civilization where everyone can reach their potential." But it wasn't all peaceful progress. Some elements resisted. Die-hard council loyalists formed terrorist groups, attacking Commonwealth installations. Some species struggled with the transition from dominance to equality. Jin Park, now Commonwealth. Defense Minister dealt with these threats firmly but fairly. When a group of Draxim extremists bombed a human settlement, Jin's response surprised everyone. He didn't retaliate against the Draxim people. Instead, he worked with the Draxim government to hunt down the terrorists. When they were caught, they faced trial under Commonwealth law, not human vengeance. "We could have wiped them out," one of Jin's officers said. "Sent a message." "The message we need to send," Jin replied, "is that justice applies equally to everyone. If we take revenge on entire species for the actions of a few, we become the old council." Earth itself became the symbol of the new galaxy. The planet that had been burned nearly to nothing was now beautiful again. More than that, it was shared. While humans were the majority, every Commonwealth species maintained an embassy and cultural center on Earth. Alien children played in parks rebuilt by human technology. Draxim artists created sculptures in human cities. Voth scientists taught at human universities. The mixing of cultures created something unprecedented. Yun Cho, who had once been humanity's master spy, now led the Commonwealth Diplomatic Corps. She traveled between worlds, mediating disputes and building bridges. "The hardest part," she told Hana during one visit to Earth, "isn't the logistics or politics. It's getting species to let go of old hatred." "Tell me about it," Hana said wryly. "Half my own people still want revenge. They lost everything. Forgiveness doesn't come easy." "But it comes," Yun said. "Slowly. Yesterday, I saw a Draxim elder teaching human children about crystalline mathematics. Both sides were crying. They were thinking about what could have been if the genocide had never happened. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. The old council had maintained strict control over trade routes and resources. The Commonwealth opened everything. Former restricted technologies became available: asteroid mining, quantum manufacturing, planet terraforming. Within 10 years, the average quality of life across the galaxy increased by measures the Council had never achieved in millennia. Species that had lived in poverty suddenly had access to resources and knowledge. "They wasted so much potential," Wu said to Hana, reviewing economic reports. "The Council kept hundreds of species deliberately underdeveloped to maintain control. Look at what happens when we give them the tools to grow." But the greatest achievement was the Memorial Garden, built around the quantum crystal that held the names of humanity's dead. It had grown into something more. Every species in the Commonwealth was invited to plant something in the garden: trees from alien worlds, flowers that bloomed in different spectrums, crystal formations from Voth artists. Each edition represented a commitment to remember the genocide and prevent it from ever happening again. On the 30th anniversary of the genocide, a gathering was held at the memorial. Survivors who had lived through the horror stood beside aliens whose governments had ordered the attack. Tae Sung, now retired from military service but still influential, gave the speech. He was 70 years old, gray-haired and tired, but his voice remained strong. 30 years ago, the Council tried to erase humanity because they feared we would change the galaxy. They were right to fear, but they were wrong about what that change would be. He gestured to the gathered crowd, humans and aliens, former enemies standing together. They thought we would conquer, dominate, destroy. Instead, we chose to build. We could have taken revenge on every species that voted for our extinction. We could have become the new council, ruling through fear and strength. But that would have made their fears justified. It would have proved that humanity was dangerous in the way they claimed. So we did something they never expected. We chose justice over vengeance. We chose cooperation over domination. We chose to prove that what made us dangerous was actually what the galaxy needed most. A young Draxum approached the memorial and placed a flower at its base. "My grandfather voted for the genocide," she said, her voice shaking. "He believed humans were a threat. I can't change what he did, but I can promise to honor what you built from the ashes." Tae Sung nodded slowly. "The old galaxy is gone. The council is gone. The hatred is fading. What remains is the choice we all make every day. Do we repeat history or do we learn from it?" He looked at the memorial, at the names of the billions who died. They didn't get to see this. They didn't get to see the galaxy we built. But maybe, in some way, they're part of it. Every person, here, every achievement we've made exists because we refuse to let their deaths be meaningless. After the ceremony, Hana walked through the memorial garden with Tae Sung. They were both old now, both tired from decades of work. "Do you think we succeeded?" Hana asked. "Did we get the revenge we swore to take?" Tae Sung was quiet for a long moment. "We got something better. We got justice. The council fell. Their crimes were exposed. The guilty were punished. But more than that, we proved they were wrong. They said humans were dangerous, violent, unable to share the galaxy." He gestured to the garden around them, to the mix of species working and living together. "This is our revenge. Not destruction, but creation. We took their worst act and used it to build the best possible outcome. The galaxy they tried to protect from us is gone. The galaxy we built is better than anything they ever achieved." "Some humans still struggle with it," Hana admitted. "They wanted blood, fire, complete destruction of everyone who hurt us." "I know. I felt that way for years." Tae Sung touched the memorial crystal. "But this satisfies something deeper. We didn't just survive. We didn't just win. We transcended. We became something the old council could never comprehend. A species that suffered the worst and responded with the best." As the sun set on Earth, casting long shadows through the garden, they stood in silence. Around them, the galaxy continued to grow and change. New species joined the Commonwealth. Old wounds healed slowly. The future stretched out, uncertain but hopeful.